Welcome to the Commander's Journey, a journey for new Commander players ready to uncover their hidden magic potential.
Welcome back. I'm Joel.
And I'm Alex.
And here we are with Convos with the Newb. Here is the first in very many episodes coming your way. A new segment we're going to call Convo with a Newb. And we're just going to talk about stuff that a new player would want to talk about, questions that a new player would have. Like myself, I'm a new player, new to Commander, newer to Magic. And today I kind of want to talk a little bit about, I've been playing for not even a year yet, have I?
No, a little over a year.
A little over a year. Just a little bit over a year. Both Commander and Magic in general just been playing.
We're really stretching this noob category for a
couple years. I kind of obsessed over it, and I've gotten really into it. Plus, we kind of have a podcast, a video. Anyways, but I kind of want to talk about, as a new player, my process and how I brew my Commander decks. I have a few, and I think I have a few that are halfway decent, so kind of wanted to talk about that today.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited, Joel, too. I actually really like how Joel does it, even for us experienced players. He's really good at using existing cards he has, which for me is somehow a struggle. I really do struggle with using cards I own. I mean, if it lines up, great, but Joel will go out of his way to look at cards he has and find things that work and find ways to make it work. So I think there's a lot to be gained even from older players. We're not going to it, but I like that it's also is fantastic for newer players and a great way to not have it be so expensive getting in Commander.
Exactly.
So, Joel, once you have a commander, what kind of gets you going? When you start deciding on a deck, how do you start building it?
So, I'm glad you asked, Alex. For me, my first commander was Teysa Karlov, and after I learned to play Magic a little bit, I think what gets me going is I will either see a commander that has some really cool things I'd like to do, or synergies, or something maybe I haven't done quite yet. Like with Teysa, it was, the whole thing where you sacrifice something or something dies and you get a bunch of cool effects. So it was like, to build around synergies was always really fun. So honestly, when the precons come out, or like when the Brawl decks came out, or maybe I get a really cool commander in a box. I think I got Yarick one time. Then what I'll do is, because I have the card, or I got the card, right, I'll stick it in my binder. So I keep a binder, and that's kind of the beginning of my process. I organize a binder. We kind of had, I think we had an episode on this, Alex, where we talk about the breakdown of what a commander deck entails. We recommend having 37 lands, 10 ramp cards, 10 draw cards, 10 different removal spells, 5 single target, and 5 board wipes. And then, you want to fill in the rest. So I have a binder where I just kind of took some tape and I labeled, like on each page, those empty slots, so that I can just take the cards I own and just fill them in. And that way I can look at it visually just by flipping my binder, build my entire deck in my binder. And I only put in the binder what I own. So like when I got the Brawl decks, it was like I needed to add some cards, so I put the entire Brawl deck in the binder, put things in their categories, and then I went and found a bunch of other cards I had that fit the other categories. I just go through all my cards, and as I've gotten more cards, right, because as a new player at the very beginning I didn't have it, but the more I get, the more I stick them all in, and then I have the bones of a deck, the beginnings of a deck right there.
Yeah, and I want to say, too, I think this is a great time for Commander players. The power level of most sets high. Wizards really building with Commander players in mind. So if you're questioning whether you want to get into Commander or anything like that, or you just, maybe just considering building your first deck, this is a great time to do it. And I think, Joel, you have a great strategy, which is, you find cards that fit the categories and you go in. But I got to ask you, what happens when you have a card that has multiple categories it's filling? Maybe it's both card draw and ramp or something like that.
So in that case, it kind of depends on. I kind of look at what the strengths or weaknesses of the deck are. Like, I've learned better over time, the different colors, right, have different strengths. So, say for instance, when I was building Teysa Karlov, she's in black and white. So I didn't necessarily have a ton of really great ramp spells, though I have, in black, so I had plenty of good card draw spells. So my ramp page, my page of ramp was very strict. It was like mana rocks, and just ways to really strictly ramp. But when it came to card draw, I found I would put card draw spells in there, but then I would inevitably in the rest of my 99 have creatures or in other things that would just also inadvertently draw me cards or do things like that. So it kind of is hard to decide, but I just decide I need at least this many, right?
Mm-hmm.
10 card draw spells to put in there, and then if a card happens to be in the 99 or somewhere else and has both an ability or is playable and it's a card draw spell, I kind of just look at it as extra value in that way. But I try and make sure in my binder I have something in each of them. If I have one that's, say, ramp and card draw, which I can't think of a card that does that. But if I have one that kind of fit two categories, I would still just slot it in one category and still make sure in the other category on the other side of my binder I fill that space. So if it has the two effects, it would just kind of be extra value for me,
Well, there you go. And that's, I think, just a fantastic way to go, and it's straightforward, and those of us, who just don't happen to have a binder or maybe not even willing to, grab one, there are other ways to do it. You can parse out, even just keep your deck in a pile, and then maybe put in a paper insert that says what each category is, the next 10 cards or this, the next, so you can kind of see as you go. But what's nice about Joel's solution is when you're missing a card, you literally have an empty slot in the binder where you can go, oh, I really need to find another ramp card or whatever you happen to be missing. So Joel, I have another question for you. So those unique synergistic cards, how do you go and add those into it? Because you might not own those necessarily. You might have to figure those out. What do you recommend for a newer player?
So what I'll do is I have my my binder, right? And what I used to do is just put the cards that I owned in the binder, and then say, hey, that's good enough. That's a good deck. Let me put them all in sleeves. Let me play it a few times and then see what I need to add or take away. But now what I do, I have a step I do before I do that, which is I do what, some people call net decking, but it's not really, because I've already built the bones of my deck. But I'll go online, I'll go to EDH Rec, I'll go to Scryfall, I'll look at some of the different Facebook groups I'm a part of or different areas, and I would look up those commanders or look at people who also build those commanders and what cool cards they kind of point out, right? You can even ask people, and people have really cool hidden gems that they use in their decks, or they go in this direction or that, and it kind of helps me lead me into another direction. And then what I'll do is I will go on to after I have like maybe a handful or a dozen of those cards that I think are really cool, I'll write them down and be like, I need these cards. I'll go to this website, mtg-print.com, and just print off a bunch of proxies in black and white. And then I'll take my scissors, cut them out, and I'll literally just slip them in front of the other cards in those categories. So say I found 3 new really cool removal spells that work way better. I'll print them out, I'll cut them up, I'll go to my removal section, and I'll just slide those in front of 3 of the other cards I think are maybe weakest or have the highest CMC and they're kind of slow, or things like that. And I find the more I've done that, and I think I did this with my last deck, my Anawan deck, right? I put all the cards I had, the cards from the pre-con, and then I kind of pulled a bunch of cards out. I said these would be better, and then I was looking online at what other people did. I found a few cool cards that I liked that other people did, and I would just print them and slip them right in, and then I knew I wanted those cards, and that would kind of get me to that next step to make the deck a little bit stronger, more synergistic, and more optimized.
Got it. And you touched upon it just for a second there, but when it comes to testing the deck, that seems to be when you're really optimizing. Is that the case?
Yeah, so at that point, right, if I've printed them off and I've slipped them in, usually I have them in sleeves as well. I have them sleeved up in the binder. I'll slip them in front of the sleeves, and I'll just pull them out, shuffle them up, and start play testing, right? I'll start off by goldfishing, which is just basically drawing 7 cards, looking at them, and acting like I'm playing against myself, basically. Kind of play solitaire Magic. And then I'm lucky because my 8-year-old loves to play Magic, and he's got a few decks. So I'll just play test by playing with him, play a few games with him, and kind of see what works and what doesn't work as well. That gets me started. And if I feel confident that it's pretty good, maybe I'll go on to TCG Player, use the affiliate link for Commander's Journey, and get some of those cards for my deck.
Yeah, and I think that's something to be said too. That you're never going to build the perfect deck. Chances are, opening move, you're going to have to play test it, adjust it, especially early on when you're playing. There's going to be a lot more adjustments, a lot more play testing. So don't ever be afraid to play a game, even if it's not going your way or whatever. There's still a lot to be learned from just playing that game and adjusting accordingly. I think that's very key.
Yeah, it really is, and it makes it fun. So like you were alluding to at the beginning, Alex.
Mm.
I mean, it takes a lot to build a commander deck. So if you either got a pre-con or you got a bunch of cards that already work together, just slap them together. Just like now what I do is I have a binder, and I always have a deck brewing in there, right? Even if it's not something I'm going to ultimately build. Hey, I got a bunch of cards here. I'm going to slip them in there and just keep looking at it. And sometimes the ideas will come, sometimes they won't. But I think that for me, that's the fun part of visualizing it, looking at it, and trying to build it. But like you said, once you get to that point of, hey, I got a good enough deck, this seems pretty fun, right? Play the deck, pull it out, play it. And you guys let me do this, and don't be afraid to just print the card, put it in there, and play it a few times with your play group with some friends before you invest in buying the cards online, That way you also know if you're going to like it or not. You don't want to invest in a really expensive card and then you realize I didn't really like playing that deck anyways. Now you got a card sitting in your trade binder and you don't know what to do with it except maybe trade it.
And I want to say too, especially with COVID running around like it is while we're recording this, you can't play in person necessarily. It's a little unsafe to do so often, but there's stuff like Spell Table and Zoom you can play over, or even their online platforms. Arena is more brawl oriented, but there are other programs that you can use to play online with people, try out decks, see what's going on, play with more play testy cards to see what you like, and I think go from there.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to do that and play out. Like I think as a new player, when I first started going to our local game store before COVID hit and playing with people in different pods have like different ways to play. Some are way more aggressive, some are way more casual. Everybody's got it, but it's fun. I mean, like get out there and do it, because if you don't, you're not going to learn what you love about the game. If you're more of a casual player, kind of like we are, but really, really love synergies and might not be attracted to all those infinite combos, or maybe your guy loves, big infinite combos, but like you were alluding to, don't be afraid to get out there, build the deck the way you want. That's part of the fun. And then play it. Optimize it. Keep optimizing. Keep adding to it. Like my Teysa Karlov is a pet project. It's just like keep adding cards to it, like all the time, until I feel like it's perfect, right? So
yeah,
it's fun.
Well, there you go. And I think that is, pretty key is just, feel free to adjust it. Don't feel you have to commit to a deck just because, you started with it. Or if you're not liking a deck, maybe it's a small change, maybe it's a big one you got to make. Don't be afraid to do those kinds of things.
Yep. Stick it in a binder and take a look at it again and have fun. That's what I'm doing with my Corval deck right now. I put it in a binder. I'm trying to figure out what to do with it right now.
There you go.
All right. Well, thank you guys. That was our first convo with the Newb. I'm the Newb, Joel.
I'm about to say you had all the answers this time around, Joel. Opening move, combo with the Newb. You had the answers.
Yeah. Well, it's conversations with the Newb. It's going to go back and forth. We're going to have questions and answers rings. But it's really just kind of Q&A time. Talk to each other, figure out some things, and talk all things Commander. We love Commander, and we especially want to talk to the newer crowd, and hopefully have some cool resources for you guys. So thank you guys for listening. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this show. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. We do a lot of deck techs on this show. We do a review. We'll be doing some Legends reviews here soon. But yeah, thank you guys.
Exciting stuff. Yeah, and if this inspired you to build a deck, or you think about getting into Magic, please use our affiliate link if you're up for it. It's with TCG Player, and we're a small channel, so definitely helping us out with an affiliate link is very, very helpful and helps us keep going.
Thank you guys so much. Until next time.
See ya.